will begin the day very shortly here. Welcome all to the Coalition 2021 New Market Tax Credit Policy Conference.
Okay, Yvette, you're all set.
Good. Is everybody, we're on? Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the New Markets Tax Credit Coalition Policy Conference. I'm Yvette Ittu, the board president of the New Markets Tax Credit Coalition and president of Cleveland Development Advisors. When we met last December, we marked the 20th anniversary of the enactment of the legislation that established New Markets Tax Credit. We have definitely come a long way from the early days of the program. Thanks to all of you and professionals you work with, we're able to gather here today across the country to discuss where New Markets Tax Credit policy stands and plan for the next chapter of this program. As a dynamic tool, New Markets Tax Credit has allowed for community development that works across America in urban and rural communities of all sizes. It's because of your tireless work successfully advocating for this vital resource that we can take a day to reflect on where we stand after 20 years and prepare for the next chapter of this program. Thanks to your efforts and efforts of many members of Congress, including a few of whom we are fortunate to have here today, we are on the edge of seeing Congress make this credit permanent. We are honored to have with us today Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal to kick off the morning session. He will be followed by a panel that will discuss the recent New Markets research released by the Urban Institute and findings from this year's Coalition and New Markets Tax Credit Policy Report. This year's report covers 272 projects representing $2.9 billion in New Markets Tax Credit allocation that was deployed in 2020, a year in which project financing was sorely needed. The report discusses several challenges CDEs faced during triaging projects and deploying their allocation during an unprecedented pandemic. The good news is that projects are still moving forward and project financing accelerated as we entered 2021. The report details how several older projects helped communities cope with the pandemic and the associated economic hardships. For example, hundreds of federally qualified health centers have been financed by New Markets Tax Credits, and they played an important role bringing COVID testing to underserved communities and administering vaccines. So thank you to everyone who submitted information used for this report. This report is proof that the credit has and will continue to have a tremendous impact. This afternoon, we have keynotes from Senators Mark Warren and Ben Cardin. We also have a great afternoon panel of Hill staffers that will be discussing what comes next for New Markets Tax Credits in face of President Biden's infrastructure and budget priorities. In addition, we'll be joined by our colleagues from the Treasury Department, including CDFI Fund Director Jody Harris, to share what comes next. They will be followed by Noel Poyo, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Community and Economic Development at the U.S. Treasury. And we are also honored to have Senator Roy Blunt joining us today, a New Markets Tax Credit champion who, after nearly a quarter century in Congress, is retiring at the end of the next session in 2022. I want to personally thank Senator Blunt for his leadership over the last 20 years, for his efforts in navigating new markets through the terrain of Capitol Hill, and for his efforts in building this credit into a successful program that has regularly received bipartisan support from Democrats and Republicans on the Hill across 4 presidential administrations. We'll finish our day hearing from members of the coalition regarding the latest developments and legal concerns, and our investor roundtable discussing issues that the pandemic has raised and developing trends around credit pricing. We are fortunate to have Applegate and Thorne Thompson, Denton, Holland and Knight, Kutak Rock, Nelson and Nelson, and Stenton as our sponsor of this year's conference and the annual New Markets Tax Credit Progress Report. I also want to thank the many organizations that sponsored the annual progress report. If you wouldn't mind, I'd just please like to list them. It's Baker Tilly, Bushhalter, Butler Snow, Building America, Capital One, Central Valley, Chase, Cohen Resnick, CRF USA, Ginsberg Jacobs, Dudley Ventures, Greenline Ventures, Heartland Renaissance, Hampton Road Ventures, Midwest Minnesota, Leverage Law, NDC, Novogradac, PNC, Raza Development Fund, REI Development Corporation, TD, CDC, TeleQ, TMF, Travoy, UACD, and US Bank. We hope that our next conference in December will all able to be together in person. But with that said, I'd like to thank you all again for joining us here today. And now I'll turn it over to